part of the Youth for Sustainability team. It is my great pleasure to be your MC this afternoon. We know that the threats posed by climate change are a real concern for young people around the world. While Youth for Sustainability acknowledges this reality, we also aim to provide hope and path towards solutions. Established under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Youth for Sustainability works to empower students and young professionals. And we equip them with the tools they need to address the planet's pressing sustainability challenges. It is our deeply held belief that investing in our most valuable asset, our young people, will help them to become the sustainability leaders of the future. That is why we are delighted to be here at COP27, where we have the opportunity to connect with like-minded people and engage with global leaders. I'd now like to move to the first item on our agenda for today. It is the Youth Leadership Panel, featuring Her Excellency Shamma Al-Mazrou'i, the UAE Minister of State for Youth Affairs, and His Excellency Mustafa Ashraf Subhi, the Egyptian Minister of Youth and Sports. The session will be moderated by Zainab Al-Ali, Masdar's Head of Outreach and Stakeholder Relations. I would like to invite all three to come to the stage now.
Thank you, Sheikha. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are all here today because we share a strong belief that our young people, our biggest hope, brightest minds, potential, and brightest future as well. And that's why we must continue to enlighten, empower, and engage them to reach their full potential and be the best leaders they could possibly be. And not any leaders, purpose-driven leaders to drive the sustainability agenda. So I'd like to start the leadership dialogue with you, Your Excellencies, champions of youth empowerment and development. So let's begin. Your Excellency, I would like to ask you, what do young people bring to the table when it comes to fighting climate change? And how can leaders increase the role of their participations in the decision making?
Thank you so much, Zainab. It's a pleasure to be with a dear friend and colleague, Minister Ashraf. On the front of what do young people bring to the table, they bring so much. Let me just maybe mention a few. One, they bring a certain kind of motivation that many other age segments lack, which is a motivation to get things done. And they make climate action a must. Only when something's a must, it gets done. I don't know if you've seen the correlation between how creative you are and how something needs to get done. I'm sure many of you were in university and you had 24 hours to submit your essay. You would do it and achieve it. That kind of must, because it's a must, it's going to happen. If you need to lose weight before getting married, they get it done, right? Because there is a deadline. So this kind of motivation is what young people have to get climate action done. And we like it. They're above the rhetoric and dialogue and the kind of basic conversation that is subpar. They get frustrated if it's just engagement. And that's why you mentioned it's not enough only to engage youth, but also to empower them, to take them to that next level. So one is motivation. The second is they bring innovation. Young people are known, it's science, they have the highest neuroplasticity of any age group. They get to see things that maybe other age groups see the same thing, but youth see it in another angle. And they bring that kind of innovation. If you see it, a lot of innovative companies and startups founded by young people. It's make no mistake, it shows that there's something that they can bring. The other thing is they have a contagious hope. And every time I see climate action or climate discussions, either people are so angry and frustrated, or someone brings you a kind of hope, and you get tired. I'm sure some people here are, Umar Al-Breaki, our lead negotiator, might be here, and you get tired from how people are hopeless when it comes to climate action. Young people bring a contagious hope. So that's to answer your question, what do they bring to the table? And climate action needs hope. It needs energy. It needs authenticity as well and courage. The second part of your question was, what kind of opportunities can young people have? I think to thrive and empower young people in climate action, we need to give them live opportunities. It's not just training them in a skill or raising awareness about climate action in a school or in a workplace, but actually giving them actual opportunities where they can lead. So yesterday, the launch of the UAE Climate Delegates Program is an opportunity for 10 Emirati youth to be part of a year-long process in the road to COP28, to be part of the UN negotiations. That's an example of a young person who's empowered with an opportunity to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency Subhi, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, Firstly, just to be honored, very to be honored to be here today in the UAE Pavilion with my colleagues and my friend as well, Minister Shamma, that they have a great vision for the youth activity in the Arab world, not only in UAE. Thank you for coming. Thank you to be here to join us, and the kind invitation for myself to be with you here. Secondly, actually we proud to have the COP27 as well, the COI 17, to organize them both in Egypt, especially the responsibility for the Ministry of Youth and Sports to have the total responsibility for hosting the COI 17. It was a good thing and good remark to have it in one of our premises in Sharm el-Sheikh. It's the Youth and Sports City in Sharm el-Sheikh. Actually, more than 145 country. It's brief in 1,500 from all over the country. We organize them for their visions, selected by the 5 NGOs groups that they have the responsibility with the youth for the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Actually, I lived with them in 3 days, from the 2nd to the 4th of November, and we do have already the brief and conclusions to have it in the COP27. Yesterday, it was a very great day, that the Youth Day. Great because of it's related to our activity. It's for the youth in the COP. It's not came from something without knowledge, because of the youth. They are the present as well the future. They should know what is the future for them. They shouldn't worry about the climate change. I let you know, if we ask ourselves 4 or 5 years ago about the climate change, we thought it's very far and we will not feel for it right now. But it's since 1 year we have the feeling it's very close. It's not only a particular country, but for the whole the planet. A lot of floods and even the changing of the raining from country to other country. The dry country became raining country, and it is. So we are here today to just encourage the youth to involve more and more for the awareness, entrepreneurship, and thinking about the climate change and the future. I think the benefits for the youth, for the both climate change, for the COP27 as well for the COI, it will be very beneficial for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, and for your insights as well. It's very much clear that there are too many ways that we can engage our young people, so we can ensure that we continue to empower them so their voices are heard. Which brings me to my second question, Your Excellency. How can we equip young people and young people in Africa with the right skills and tools to help them raise awareness, or the skills and the tools that they need to raise awareness of climate change, adaptation, and mitigation?
Actually, in Egypt, we have two hats. The first hats, we are in Africa.
Yeah.
So our activations, our work, always we have the integrations and the plan with the African people, with everything in the whole activity, especially our scope in youth and sports. On the other hand, we are part of the Arab world, so we work on both, and some of the African countries, they situated for both hats. So we have a lot of activity through our national strategy. We have the youth national strategy as well, the sports national strategy. For the youth national strategy, you have from the kids' ages till the young as well, the youth, lot of plan and activities. And it's divided into the awareness activity, the training and TOT activity, hosting the kids and youth to Egypt to train them, to give them the awareness, and the mutual exchanging groups from Egypt to some of the African country, actually for this kind mutual learning and teaching for them through our expertise about the climate change. But the tangible issues that we used to have Egyptian caravan. Egyptian caravan with the 30 of the activity plan we have started in 27 municipalities in Egypt for education's awareness to go around. And we do have an own, as a Minister of Youth and Sports, 5,000 youth community centers, plus 1,500 social and sports club, plus the 11 big youth and sports city and 8 innovation centers distributed in all Egypt. So we have the plan in this kind of places just to attract the kids as well, the young, for teaching, for speaking, for innovations, and we convert a percentage of the whole activity to be for the climate change. We have the platform to make a mutual in Africa for what we have done here. But I just tell you, we have hosted the COI conference 3 months ago. It's related to the youth day and the future generations. We actually have African Volunteer Day for the for the climate change by participating of 36 African country in March 2022. And that day we declared that Minister of Youth and Sports coordinated with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well as with the Ministry of Environment for hosting the COI. And we have other big projects, the African Hackathon with the Youth Africa for Entrepreneurship. So it's very important because we have to train them for the entrepreneurship and the startup for the future opportunity and job for the climate change. And we have 17 African countries. They work with us in Egypt related to the futures and related to preparations of the COI ANCOP. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. So we've learned that there's so much that could be done, from innovation centers to training, program exchange. Coming back to Your Excellency, what are your thoughts on that?
Before thinking about initiatives and programs, fantastic initiatives like Youth for Sustainability or the Zaid Sustainability Prize or the Arab Youth Pitches in the Arab Youth Center, I think at the basics level, when we talk about skills and green skills, and there is a green skills gap, it starts with education. And at the heart of COP and at the heart of climate change are ministers of education. They need to start from, and I'm not saying from teenagers or youth, but from early learning and early childhood, to really engage them with the awareness about sustainability, the awareness about the green economy, about green jobs. And I think that is going to be the game changer that will move the dial in terms of equipping youth with skills and tools, because When you equip them with that kind of knowledge, today all of us can learn without a university degree, right? If we want to learn a concept, if I want to learn coding or learn a language, I can do it on my own, right? Today, everything is at my disposal. But how can we ensure that young people understand the importance of green skills and understand the importance of sustainability and make them interested in it? I have to be honest, I come from a region, the Arab world, and if you look at the statistics, 30% of the Arab youth only believe that climate change is a priority. To me, that's scary. That's frightening. If only 30% believe that climate change is a priority among the challenges that we face around the world. And 2 COPs are happening. It's once in a lifetime that we're going to have 2 COPs after each other that they're in the Arab world, Egypt and then the UAE. So it raises the question, before even thinking about what programs we can try to create, we need to start educating and raising awareness. And from then, build on what kind of skills they can learn.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, as the Minister of Egypt, Minister of Youth and Sport, how do you think Egypt hosting of COP27 will help to inspire young people to join the fight against climate change?
I'm sure. I'm sure the changing is coming after the COP27. It's a huge marketing plan after that one. And I think I always running with my colleague, Minister Shama, because of she's always based on the international study related to everything in details. I believe that it's 30% for the Arab world to believe and to think about the priority for the climate change. If we have the study after the COP 27, I believe it will change because of I am feeling without study here in Egypt even because of when we start to speak about the COI and we have the announcement for the COP in Egypt. So I have some of the statistics from the entrepreneurship and innovations as well the initiatives from the youth in Egypt and even the kids. Because of we have something we call it scientific club and based within the community center in Egypt, as well we have it in the sports and social club. So I figures it's more than 50% the projects based and close to have something of the innovations and something related to climate change. And out of the more than 50%, I think it's more than 40% related to the energy and solarium systems. So most of the innovations came from this point. How could we have the energy for the buildings and the exceeding the solarium system because of we have the infrared energy came from the building itself and the glasses, and they have some of the projects you could believe it's I have some of the projects from the kids 10 and 12 and they have the thinking even without implementations, but we have it when we have IBDAع. It's a huge competitions around Egypt. For one of them is for the university in Egypt and the other for the community centers. IBDAع, it's amazing competitions because of we offer this one for the whole youth in Egypt based on what we have. Actually, the innovations, more than 70% of this one, it's related to the solarium system and innovations for the climate change. I think after we finished from the COP 27 and even after that, I believe that our hard country, UAE, they will have it, the COP 28. And I think they will start for the campaign for the COP 28. It will be again another marketing for it because of everyone knows about the COP right now. Everyone in Egypt and the Arab world, they following every day the events. I think we have right now in Egypt more than 45,000 persons in Egypt and more than 116 a president and head of the other countries. So a lot of media and a lot of social media actually deliver the message. So as a ministers of youth, as well the other colleagues from other like environment and wherever in the country, they should use the future and the capabilities and the power of the cup. Because of the power of the cup, which means the mindset of the generations. And I agree with Minister, my colleague Minister Shamma, the education is very important. And our cooperation as a Ministries of Youth is very important and highly appreciation if we have the MOU and the kind of cooperation with the Ministries of Education, because of in Egypt, for instance, below the university educations who have 25 millions in high school and below. So we have to go through it, cooperate with what we have. And I think it's very important for our actions and to modify, because of I have some of the pillars in our national youth strategy. Some of it it's for the climate change. I think we have to have with my colleagues to sit again after the COP to modifications and modify the strategy, because we have to increase the priority for the climate change within the our strategy.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Within the important discussions that are happening in COP and Sharm el-Sheikh today, it's very enlightening to hear or to be able to hear your perspectives on this topic. Your Excellency Shamma, as the State Minister of Youth for Youth Affairs, what similarities do you think there are between the young people in the UAE and also the young people in Africa? And how can we boost opportunities for them to collaborate, young people to collaborate to accelerate climate action?
Thank you so much, Zainab. Before that, I just want to add an addendum to what the Minister mentioned. I think, and I'm very proud to come from a country where youth engagement is not a new normal. It's already part of our legacy and part of our heritage. Just if we look at the word sustainability, the origin of it is to sustain. In Latin, it's sustenere, which means to hold. And when we think about climate change, it's always about change, right? I think as a nation, we've held the legacy of Sheikh Zayed of youth empowerment at its core from the beginning of the nation. And today you see it in this pavilion. Every section and every field, from space to nuclear energy, to ADNOC, to Masdar, to Department of Energy, to the local and federal entities, all of them have youth delegates. And it makes my heart beam with pride to see how youth are empowered in their nations in all of our UAE's decarbonization efforts. And it's beautiful to see that, because that's the UAE walking the talk in youth empowerment and youth at the heart of climate action. And that's the kind of opportunities we wish to see in Africa as well. The UAE tries its best as well to model and try to invest in other nations through a couple of the winners from our Arab Youth Pitches at KOI that the Minister mentioned, which was 3 days ago. We had 2 African winners as well, who the UAE is going to fund their startups. So it's a pride as well to see other birds take flight in other nations. The other point I wanted to mention is today as the UAE, we're very excited to work with Egypt hand in hand on the road to COP28. We've been listening to so many different youth. First of all, the feedback that we're getting from our Emirati youth here is very important. Post-COP, everyone is going to share their amazing experience, what they've learned, what could be built on. Today we're here to continue what Egypt's success has been trying to achieve. The second is also what are their new maverick ideas. We've engaged with African youth today at the Youth and Children Pavilion. I want to congratulate Egypt for being the first COP to have a Youth and Children Pavilion. So the UAE, inshallah. So the UAE as well will continue to have a Youth and Children Pavilion. And this is the art of COPs, which is we take a legacy from each COP to continue. There was never a Youth and Child Pavilion. So now there will be. That's the legacy. Hopefully, what will the UAE's legacy be? In other fields, of course, but also in the youth sector. We're very excited to see that and make sure that our youth are the authors of it. 2 years back in Milan as well, Youth for Climate, some of our delegates were there. Their legacy was the Youth for Climate event, and we saw it in the United Nations General Assembly in New York. So every nation has its own kind of legacy. I wanted my ask today and an open call for invitation for the Emirati youth here. And as I mentioned, when I say Emirati youth, It's not just Emirati of citizenship. I mean the youth who call the UAE their home and who live in the UAE, and we have a lot of NYU Abu Dhabi students here. So I hope Emirati youth can tell us what legacy can the UAE create. And inshallah, it's a legacy that we will all celebrate as well. So I hope I answered your question.
You did very well. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Your Excellencies, for your insights. You've given us a deeper look into how we can continue, promote, support, enlighten our youth of today so they become the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you very much. I would like to also thank the brilliant audience and give a big round of applause to our panelists for today.
And thanks to Zainab for leading Youth for Sustainability for over now 8 years. And she's a stellar youth leader in it.
Thank you so much. مش سلمت. يا صح في بالي
Thank you once again for that informative and inspiring panel. Now we will now move on to the youth panel on African Roundtable discussion outcomes. Can you all please stay for the next session? Please have a seat.
Don't worry, I'll get them. Just move them. Do you want their backdrop back up?
Yes. Please stay, we still have another session. Huh? As some of you may recall, last month we hosted 6 roundtables where young people from Africa and our Youth for Sustainability platform participants discussed key sustainability issues. The roundtables were on the topics of sustainable agriculture and food for the future, the role of African youth in leading the energy transition to net zero, and enabling African next generation of entrepreneurs and solvers. In this next session, 3 of our roundtable participants will share the considerations and conclusions produced from their discussions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Good to have you here, and thanks to the high-level session that preceded us. That was exciting. I myself, in 2019, went to Abu Dhabi for the first time for the Secretary General's stock-taking meeting. And with the hospitality of the Minister of Youth, Her Excellency Sharma, hosted us, showed us around the UAE, and the leadership that they have on integrating young people into their policy-making process, awareness creation, but also giving them skills and opportunities. And the impact of that meeting alone, I could go on and on about it. But basically, the young people who were at that meeting back in 2019 has really grown to now become some of the people who are advised from the Secretary General on his climate action strategy. So it's really great to be back here. And I remember I met Lydia for the first time 3 years ago, moderating an event with her, and to meet her again still doing the good work. So really happy to be back. I feel like I'm home, basically. So that is very great. Today we are here to hear about a consultation that happened between the African region, the UAE. How do we work together? How do we strengthen a relationship, mainly for young people? How do we create better opportunities for young people? And I have an amazing panel with me. And this panel spent time with young people within their groups during these sessions, mostly young Africans, but also some young people in the UAE, because it's a dual process, to ask certain questions around how they can better integrate young people into government, how they can enhance skills development, among other things. And today, the main point of this session is to hear back from what that consultative process looked like. What do young people want? And particularly for the Africa region, what could such a partnership and collaboration between our beautiful places, how could that look like? How could we advance that? So that is why we are here today. And I have an amazing panel to do this with us. So I'm going to start with Lydia, actually. So Lydia, you led a group of young people to talk around how they can better work with their governments, and to just reflect a little bit on what Her Excellency Shama said. It is imperative for young people to be part of policy-making process, to be part of governmental processes. What did the young people in your group say? What are they hoping to see, and what could help facilitate their engagement with their governments?
Thank you so much, Joshua. And, likewise, it's so great to have seen you. It's been 3 very long years, but I know that that time apart really has just made us grow stronger and really advocate for youth engagement worldwide. And I think today's session is a reflection of what meaningful youth engagement can really deliver. And I think that's kind of what was discussed in my panel discussion. We started off by looking at where are we now in terms of the youth engagement model. But really, what are the challenges that we are facing? Because as youth, Her Excellency Shama greatly said, we have that passion, that commitment, that determination to get things done, to really put climate change at the start of people's agenda, because it is important. But, there are things that we struggle with. Sometimes we are not listened to. We do not have the funding to fund our solutions. It's hard, and, sometimes young people, it's easy for us to give up. We have that drive and determination, but sometimes because there's a lack of support behind us, it can be easy to give up and lose focus. But I think what was most meaningful and most fruitful out of that discussion is that there are ways to fund those collaborations and that support. And I think the UAE is a great leader and a champion of what meaningful youth engagement really does look like. We've heard over COP27 all the great initiatives that, for example, the UAE is powering through. And I think what we can do as people living in the UAE and those that call our home is really advocate for greater youth engagement, show to the world what involving youth really is about and how powerful it is, and allow other young people from around the world to have those same opportunities, because they also have that passion and perhaps don't have the means to do so, but it is our responsibility to get them to that place and ensure that, yes, climate change is an issue, but it's an issue that involves every single one of us, and we have to work together as one to find a solution for everyone.
Thank you for sharing that. I pick up 2 main things, which I think is very important. I think one is, first of all, having the space available. And, at the Office of the Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, we're running a campaign, which is called Be Seen, Be Heard. You might have seen a couple of people walking around with a shirt which says Be Seen, Be Heard. And what we're basically saying, together with a couple of our partners, is that young people still hold bigger population category in terms of numbers. They are seen, but they are not heard. And the reason they are not heard is that sometimes the spaces are not provided, and that space needs to be provided. So I think that is one main thing that I take out. And like I said, back in 2019 when I was in the UAE, I saw that we've had a very strong relationship with the Minister of Youth, Her Excellency, and continuously we try to create those spaces, that we can have spaces within governmental institutions that young people can actually be seen and be heard and really can have their voice out. The second part is the financial element you mentioned. Without funding, you can have ideas, you can have passion, but you will not be able to move. So that financial element is so important. I think this is something that young people talk about a lot, but we are still not receiving as much funding as we need to. We just concluded a study which showed that only 0.76 of global climate philanthropy goes to young people. 0.76, not even up to 1%, goes to young people. And that 0.76, majority goes to US-based organizations. So all the other work that young people are doing all around the world really are doing it with peanuts, nothing. So this funding question is so important, and I think it's something that we need to work on. And I hope that Youth for Sustainability would really work together with its partners, with us, with everyone, to really make sure that we can unlock as much funding as possible to support young people. I'm going to turn to you, Mohammed. When you met with the young people in this dialogue, you had a responsibility and you were part of a group that was looking at skills, right? Skills for the region. And I know that in Africa, I mean, people are creative beyond my imagination, right? During COVID, we saw so many ways people were setting up different ways to wash hands without touching the buckets and everything. No, the innovation is there, the creativity is there, the skills to some extent is there. So what else did people tell you that they need on the continent in this brainstorming session and this breakout group that we need to hear and we need to work on?
Yeah, sure. In terms of the skills needed, I think the skills is there, as you said. Even the innovation is there. One key aspect is absence from that they said it's the entrepreneurship ecosystem, and the funding, as you rightly said, is not available to them. And if you don't have really a robust entrepreneurship ecosystem, that would hinder their ability actually to unlock their potential and actually to showcase their skills and the opportunity to the world. But they also, the one thing that I want to mention is actually Africa is a young continent. 70% is youth. And one of the things that they said, there is not enough job created compared to the number of youth that come into the job market every year. So they fully acknowledge this is an ongoing issue, and the only solution for that is actually to take the youth from being perceived as unemployed and the problem, and to become the opportunity and the one who creates opportunity to other through entrepreneurship and small and medium companies.
Thank you very much. Skills are there, opportunities are there, but the problem is the number of people who need jobs versus the jobs that are there is a mismatch. So that is what needs to be fixed. Thanks for sharing that. And I know that, I come from Ghana, I work across the region, and I know that youth unemployment is a bigger issue. But now there's even growing concern for youth underemployment. When you are employed, but you are paid way below what you're supposed to be paid. And it comes a lot of other risk that is associated to that. So that is very important to hear. But I think the most important thing from this is not seeing that as a challenge, but identifying this as an opportunity. And yesterday I had dinner with someone from the UN Global Compact who said something that I'll say now, that Africa shouldn't be seen as a place for natural resources, but it should be seen as a place for talent, skills. And I think that is very important, what you are speaking to. So thanks for sharing that. I will come to you, Maita. So I know that energy is an integral part of everything. Any country that seeks to develop needs to have constant access to energy. It is a must. But yet, Africa faces this challenge where we need to have access to energy because we still have a huge percentage of the continent that lack access to energy. And yet, we are being challenged to be on a low-carbon pathway, to even aim for net zero at some point. So how do we do that? So I'm very curious for your group. So you were in a group where young Africans, some folks in the UAE, you came together, you were talking about the role of youth in driving the energy transition era. What were the thoughts of young people in Africa?
Yeah, sure. So according to the Carbon Disclosure Project report in 2019, they mentioned that the African contribution to the greenhouse gases was around 3.8%, which means like the African can lead to the energy transition to net zero by 2050 in a very easier way. My group and I was like discussing these topics, how we can enable the youth in the energy transition period. And the key element or the key topic that we discussed it as an echoing of Her Excellency in Sham al-Mazrou'i today is the capacity building for the youth and how they need to be empowered in terms of knowledge, training, studying, to empower the youth as well as to be aware about what's happening in terms of energy transition especially. So our focus area was, for example, to develop the youth in terms of energy transition as well as in the capacity building. So there is a shortage of the a skilled workforce as well as mentioned by Muhammad. So this was one of the main issues that it is discussed as well. So we want to focus on the educational part of the youth, how we can empower them, and this will be through introducing new courses related to the renewable of the energy, etc., for all levels of educated people. As well as we want to enable them actively to be a part in the energy sector.
Well, thanks a lot, and I think these are very great insights. When I think of energy in Africa and everything you said, one thing that still strikes me is the investment that is needed to make this happen. So I'm very keen if there are particular concerns around the right investment, but also an enabling environment in terms of policy that would allow this to really push forward. Were there any inputs around that?
Yeah, actually, the youth want to be involved more in the policy maker and decision making in terms of energy. They were discussing that yes, we have an access to some of the renewable energy, such as the solar energy and etc. But they want to have a fund and investment on that area. So this will be contributing to have more access to energy in terms of access to the grid, as well as to have a renewable energy, which will lead to the energy transition.
Great, great. Thank you very much. I think to conclude this session, I'm going to try and wrap up. The key things that cross across all this sector is that there is still an increased need for education and skills development on the continent, in particular areas where we still need to develop significantly, which is, for instance, energy. Second part is that we need higher youth participation in policy at the governance level, and this is still lacking. There are a few examples that are coming up. The Youth Climate Council in Ghana, I know Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, they are setting up new initiatives that will allow young people to work closer to the government, but we need more of this, so that is very important. And then the final part of this is money, money, money. Finance is needed. We cannot sort of underestimate it, so more funding. And most importantly, when funding is given, making sure that it can reach the right people that it needs to reach. The young people who have the skills, who are creative, who really want to be closer to the problem and are already closer to the problem, to be able to leverage that to create solutions. Thank you so much for sharing this. Thank you for listening, and I hope that we can all work together to overcome some of these challenges, but most importantly, see it as an opportunity for growth. Thank you.
Thank you.